A man says, I betrothed your daughter, and she says, you betrothed me. He is forbidden to marry the relatives of the younger, and the younger is forbidden to marry his relatives. And he is forbidden to marry the relatives of the elder, but the elder is forbidden to marry his relatives. In every case in which there is a Kiddushin and there is no transgression, the offspring follows the male, which is this. This is the daughter of a Kohen, a Levi, or a Israel who was married to a Kohen, Levi, Israel. In every case in which there is a Kiddushin and there is a transgression, the offspring follows the defective one, which is this. This is a widow to a Kohen Gadol, a divorcee or Kalusa to an ordinary Kohen, a Mamzeres to a Nisonite, to a regular Jew, or the daughter of a regular Jew to a Mamzer or a Nisonite. In the case of anyone who cannot have Kiddushin with him, but can have Kiddushin with others, the offspring is a Mamzer, which is this. This is one who has relations with anyone, the Arayas, which are in the Torah. In the case of anyone who cannot have Kiddushin with him or with others, the offspring is like her, and which is this is the offspring of the slave and a Gentile woman. Ritofan says, Mamzerim can be purified how? If a Mamzer married a slave, the offering is a slave. If he freed him, the son becomes a freedman. The Rebbe Elazar says, this is the slave who is a Mamzer. Okay.
Okay, Perek Daled. Final Perek of Kiddushin. How many Mishnahs have we got in here? Okay, we've got 14 Mishnahs in this Perek, so we've got that's another 5 days worth before we finish our Siyum. Anyway, relationships. Asara Yochasin Alumi Bavel. So Ezra came up from Babel and he made a big effort to make sure that all of the puzzle people would come up with him from Babel to Eretz Israel. Why? Because he didn't think that there was a strong enough rabbinic authority left behind in Babel to ensure that they wouldn't intermarry with all of the people who they shouldn't be intermarrying with. So he brought them with him just so he could keep an eye on them. Anyway, these were the different Yochasin he brought up from Babel. Kohanim, Leviim, Israelim, as the normal. Chalalim, people who are born from a relationship with a Kohen. The Kohen married somebody that he shouldn't have married, and now they've got a child who's a halal, both men and women. Gere, v'charure, gerim, pure converts. Charurim, well, that's actually it's from shichrur. Um, so once this a slave who's been freed is basically got the status of a convert. Mamzerim, children of of forbidden unions, that are forbidden with kares, other than nida. Nesinim, the descendants of the Givonim, who were converts, but who tricked Yehoshua into accepting them, and therefore he forbade them from marrying in. Shisuki and Asufi. Now these are two interesting cases. Shisuki is in shtok, as in keep quiet. And is somebody whose father is unknown. So if he ever calls someone dad, his mother will say, "Shh, that's not, that's where it comes. That's where the name comes from." But basically, we don't know who his father is. Could be a Kohen, could be a non-Jew. Okay, but nonetheless, the child is Jewish because at least we know that his mother is Jewish. But we have no idea what kind of psul he might have. Um, and if it's a girl, she would not be allowed to marry a Kohen. Okay, a Sufi. A Sufi is from a Sufi is together. It's basically a child who was found on the street. We have no idea who his parents are. How do we know he's even Jewish? Because he was born he was found in an area where it's majority of Jews. That's another Mishnah that we've learned elsewhere, is that we go after the Rov for if you find a child. Now, when you find a child and all you know is that they're probably Jewish, then you have no idea who their parentage is and what psulim they might have in their lineage. Okay, so now the rules of intermarriage. Kohanim, Leviim, Yisraelim. Mutarim, lavo, zeh b'zeh. So regular Kohanim, Leviim, and Yisraelim are allowed to marry each other without restriction. Leviim, Yisraelim, chalale, gere, v'charure. So excluding the Kohen from the group, and now you can bring in the chalalim, gerim, and avadim mishuchrarim. who are now all allowed to marry each other. Just the Kohen is not allowed to marry into these groups. Mutarim lavor zeh b'zeh. And once you have a Yisrael or a Levi who's now in the parentage of this group, any child that they have is now fully Yisrael or even Levi, right? If a Levi marries a convert, their child is a Levi. So that's not a psul that carries through. The child of a halal does not remain a halal, and the daughter would be allowed to marry a Kohen. Okay. Gerim, Charurim, Mamzerim, and Sinei, Shasuki, Vasufi, Kulam, Motarim, Lavo, Zebazeh. Okay. So now once you exclude the Levium and Yisraelim, now the people who were not born Yisraelim or who have some other kind of a pasul, they are allowed to marry into each other according to this Tana. That a ger is actually allowed to marry a mamzer if they're prepared to marry a mamzer who's going to have a psul in his children going down. Okay, but there's no isser for a ger or an ebed neshokra to marry a mamzer or an asin. And the shasuki and the asufi, who we have no idea what their lineage is still permitted to marry a ger. But the Shisuki and the Asufi, we don't know what their parentage is, and therefore even the Israelim aren't allowed to marry them because there might be a mamzer. Okay. Elohem Shasuki. Let's see what's exactly a Shasuki. Kol shehu makiris imo ve'eno makiris aviv. So there we see it explicitly. Um, he knows his mother, he doesn't know his father. Asufi kol shenesaf min ashuk. He was gathered from the marketplace. Ve'eno makir lo is aviv ve'lo is imo. So that's the case of the one who we don't know who his parents are at all. He was abandoned on the doorstep of the orphanage. Abba Shaul hayakore l'shasuki beduki. Now, the fact that Abba Shaul said no, don't call him a Shisuki, call him a Baduki. That's not just a thing. Oh, I've got a different term for the same thing. Abba Shaul is stating a principle, la halacha, that if you know his mother, then just ask his mother who the father is, and we believe her, says Abba Shaul. Now remember, we had this in the beginning of Kesubos, where a girl turns up pregnant, and say, who the heck's the father? He says, no, ish ploni v'kohen hu. And he had this machlokes where Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Eliezer and Rabban Gamliel say, okay, we believe her, and Rabbi Yeshua says, Lo al pia anachnu chayin. We don't trust her. We have to assume that the father might be a mamzer or a nasin, or unless she can prove otherwise. But Abba Shaul over here is going like Rabbi Eliezer and Rabban Gamliel. So, right, have I got that right? Yeah, Rabban Gamliel, yeah, Rabban Gamliel and Rabbi Eliezer. So we believe her. So therefore, this Shasuki just ask the mother who the father is, and we don't, and so that's Beduk, check.
Right.
Unless it's a situation where the mother doesn't know who it was, she was chas v'shalom raped by somebody and she has no idea who it was, then okay, then you've got a shasuki. Okay, kol ha'asurim lavo b'kahal mutarim lavo b'zeh v'zeh. So those who are forbidden to enter the central marriage community, that is Kohanim, Leviim, and Yisraelim, right? So the people who are forbidden to join on with them are the mamzerim and the nesinim and the shisuki and the asufi. So, but they're allowed to marry each other. However, Rabbi Yehuda says no, you cannot. They cannot marry each other because if wait, hang on, what is he actually ushering? He's talking about a ger and a mamzeres, saying that a ger. So the Tanna Kama says that a ger is allowed to marry a mamzer, but Rabbi Yehuda says no. The ger has got the same isur as any Israel to marry a mamzer. Mamzerim can marry mamzerim, gerim cannot. And Rabbi Eliezer says, Vadan bevadan mutar. If you have a vadai mamzer with a vadai mamzer, that's mutar. Okay, but Vadan Bisfeikan Bavadan. If you have one who is Usfeikan Bisfeikan, if you have somebody who is a Safek Mamzer, like an Asufi, sorry, a Shisuki, where we don't know who his father is. Father could have been a Mamzer, could not have been a Mamzer. So as soon as there's a Safek, he's not allowed to marry anyone, basically, because maybe his father's kosher, in which case he's not allowed to marry a mamzer, or maybe his father is a mamzer, in which case he's not allowed to marry Israel. So who's he going to marry? So but even according to him, he's allowed to marry a ger because a ger is allowed to marry either a ger or an eved meshuchrar. Um, Elohen is Fekos, Shasuki, V'Asufi, V'Kusi. So who are the ones who are in doubt? Is the Shasuki, if you don't know who the father is, and Asufi, someone who's just gathered off the street, and the Kusi. Now he introduces another case over here, which is the Shomronim, the Samaritans. Um, and he says now their children are also considered as Fekos. Why? Because they are not makpid on all of the halachas that we have. Anything that's Torah Shebal Peh about gerushin is that's if you don't do a gerushin properly, and now you remarry, and now any child from the next marriage is going to be a mamzer. So he says that the kusim have to be treated as feikus. That if a child of a kusi relationship comes and wants to marry wants to do teshuvah and join the Jewish community, and we say, I'm sorry, we have no idea if you might be a mamzer or not. This again is in the days before when the kusim were still accepted as Jews, even if reluctantly. But there came a stage in the Gemara when they said, forget it. These people were never Jewish to start with, and they were always of Avodah Zarah. They were never proper converts, and we treat them as non-Jews completely.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
fine.
I'll,
Yud.
Whoever fulfills one commandment is benefited. His days are prolonged and he inherits the land, and whoever does not fulfill one commandment is not benefited. His days are not prolonged and he does not inherit the land. Whoever is involved in the study of scripture and Mishna and conducts himself properly will not easily sin. As it says, three-ply cord is not easily severed. And whoever is favored and involved neither in the study of scripture nor Mishnah and does not conduct himself properly, he was not part of a civilization. A man betroths a woman by himself or through his agent. A woman is betrothed by herself or through an agent. A man gives his daughter a Kiddushin, but when she is a Nara, he himself or through an agent. If one says to a woman, be betrothed to me with this date, betrothed to me with this one, and if one of them has the vow of a pruta, she is betrothed, but if not, she is not betrothed. If he says with this and with this and with this, if there's a vow of a pruta in all of them, she is betrothed, but if not, she is not betrothed. If she was eating them one by one, she is not betrothed unless one of them has a vow of a pruta.
One more there.
I'm trying to get it. Okay, here we go. A man said to a woman, betrothed to me with this cup of wine, and it was found to be of honey, or of honey, and it was found to be of wine, with this dinner of silver, and it was found to be of gold, or gold, and it was found to be of silver, on condition that I'm a rich man, and was found to be a poor man, or a poor man, and he was found to be a rich man. She is not betrothed. The Rishon says if he deceives her to her advantage, she is betrothed. Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Sota.
Okay. Yud Aleph. No, test Yud. Yochanan ben Gadol set aside the vow of the tithes. He also abolished the wickedness and the strikers. Limit until his days, the hammer would pound in Jerusalem, and in his days, no man had to inquire regarding Demai. From the time the Sanhedrin was abolished, the song was abolished from the banquet halls, as is stated with the song, they will not drink wine. When the early prophets died, the Urim ceased. When the temple was destroyed, they disappeared the Shaman word and Tuzin honey, and there ceased to be any faithful men, as it is stated, save Hashem, for the devout one is no more. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says in the name, right?
Yeah.
Rabbi Shua, for the day.
No, not. Oh, wait, you on to? Yeah, Rabbi. Carry,
Right.
yeah, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, carry on, yes.
Says in the name of the Rebbe Shua, from the day the temple was destroyed, there is no day without its curse. The dew has not fallen, and blessing and favor has not been removed from the fruits. Rabbi Yossi says the riches have also been lost from the fruits. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
one more.
On Shabbos, we'll be finishing Sota, and on Sunday, we start with Gittin.
Okay. Okay. We go into Kesubas.
Mm-hmm.
Kesubas, we have Vav Gimel. If she agreed to bring him 1,000 dinners corresponding to this, he must contract to give her 1,500 zuz. But corresponding he appraised goods, he can contracts to give her a fifth less. Goods appraised for 100, which are worth 100, is nothing but 100. Goods appraised for 100, and she gives 31 salam, and a dinner for 400, she gives 500. Whenever the groom contracts, he contracts less a fifth. If she agreed to bring him money, a silver seller becomes 6 dinners. The groom takes upon himself 10 dinners for the basket per 100. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says everything as follows the local custom. If one marries off his daughter without specifying, he should not give her less than 50 zuz. If he agreed to take her in unprovided, the husband cannot say, when I take her into my house, I will clothe her with my clothing. Rather, he must clothe her while she is still in the father's home. Likewise, if one marries off an orphan, he may not give her less than 50 zuz. There is sufficient in the coffer they provide according to her honor due her. Okay.
Okay.
And Erevin base gimel. No, base. And it is permitted to place the slats close to the wall, provided that a cow has its head and most of its body within it while drinking. It is permitted to place the slats at any distance, provided one increases the slats. Rabbi Yehuda says until 2 base saw. They said they did not state 2 base saw, except in regard to garden or carpet. And if it was a fold, a corral, or a backwater courtyard, even 5 corn, even 10 is permissible. And he's permitted to place the slats at any distance, provided he had slats. Rabbi Yehuda says if general traffic passes between them, he must be diverted to the side, but this comments say it's not necessary. When a public cistern, a public well, or a private well, they might elect slats. But for a private cistern, they must elect a partition 10 to them high. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yehuda ben Baffa says they may not erect slats for a public well, but for the others, they must erect an enclosure 10 feet high. Okay.
Mikos.
Okay, Aleph. If one places vessels under a pipe, whether large vessels or small vessels, even dungware or stoneware or mudware, the display is a mikvah. They disqualify a mikvah. Whether one placed them or forgot them, according to the words of Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel declared in Tahar when he forgot them. Beis Meir said they were counted as Beis Shammai outnumbered. Beis Hillel, however, said they agreed that he forgot them in a courtyard. It is Tahar. Rabbi Yossi says that the dispute still stands in its place. And one place a board under a pipe, if it has a rim, it disqualifies a mikvah. If not, it does not disqualify a mikvah. However, if he stood it upright to rinse it off, then in either case, it does disqualify a mikvah. If one hollowed out a cavity in a pipe to receive gravel, in that case, that is of wood, it disqualifies for a mikvah, whatever the size of the cavity. But in the case of that of earthenware, it disqualifies a mikvah when the size of the cavity is 1 revius. Rabbi Yossi says also in the case that is earthenware, either qualifies as mikvah, whatever the size of the cavity, and whether they spoke of rears, only concerning broken vessels of earthenware. If the gravel was loose, it was disqualified as a mikvah. If earth fell in it and it was pressed down, the mikvah is still in it. A pipe which is now at both ends or wide in the middle does not disqualify a mikvah because it was not made to receive. Kulin. If one slaughters a sacrifice to mountains, as a sacrifice to hills, as a sacrifice to seas, as a sacrifice to rivers, as a sacrifice to deserts, slaughtering is invalid. If 2 hold a knife and one slaughter as a sacrifice to one of these things, then one slaughters for the legitimate purpose, the slaughtering is invalid. When we may slaughter neither eat the seas, nor the rivers, nor the vessels, nor one may slaughter into a pool of water or a boat on top of vessels. We may not slaughter into a pit under any circumstances, but one may make a pit in his house in order that the blood should flow into it, but he may not do so in the street, so that it does not lend support to the practice of the sectarians. If one slaughters of the animal, an animal for the designation of an olah offering, a shalaman offering, or a guilt offering in case of doubt, a Pesach offering or a Thanksgiving offering, the slaughtering is invalid, but Rabbi Shimon declares it valid. If 2 holds a knife and slaughter, one for these designations and one for the legitimate purpose, the slaughtering is invalid. If one slaughters an animal for the designation of a sin offering, a definite guilt offering, a firstborn, an animal type, um, then for a substitution, the story is valid. This is the general rule. Whoever can be brought as a vow or a denotive offering, if one slaughters for his designation, is prohibited. But whatever cannot be brought for a vow or a denotive offering, with one slaughters for a designation, it is valid. One more. There are company trafer in animals. These are
No, 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 we're done. That's it.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, wonderful
Uh,
Shabbos.
used to have a great Shabbos. I got 3 hours sleep last night, so I did pretty well today. So
Okay, well done.
have a great
Okay.
Shabbos. I have to bring Gittin next time.
Yep.
Well, okay.
Okay.